بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. Welcome to the class of Fiqh. Today inshallah we will try to finish the book of financial transactions. We will start with companies, or what we call partnership. There are 5 different types of companies, but in the Shafi'i school of thought, one of them is permissible. The remaining 4 are not permissible. Therefore, we will discuss only this one. And inshallah next year, we will discuss all 5 of them. But first of all, what's the definition of company? Linguistically and in the Islamic law. A group? More than one? Now, in Arabic, company or sharika came from the word sharak. Yushrik. Does that ring a bell? Shirk, right? Association. But what's the reality of shirk?
More than one.
Shirk means gathering or mixing. Mixing. More than one. In the term, it is mixing. That's the meaning in the language. Linguistically, yakhlit, we call it, mixing. That's the meaning of sharika. But in the Islamic law, as I said, sharikat al-inan, that's the only allowed company which is called the cooperative company. What does it mean? It means a right that is shared by more than one, without restrictions in actions. That's where it came from, inan. I give you the permission to do the actions. And the same thing, you give me the permission to act in this company. That's the meaning, or that's the definition of the company in the Islamic law. Again, according to the Shafi'i school of thought, a right that is shared by more than one, because if it's only one, it's not sharika anymore, it's not company, it's only one person. Without restrictions, if there are restrictions, then it is not sharika. If there are restrictions, then there is an employer and employee. But here, there is companionship, there is a company. Without restrictions in actions. In actions. This is the company. Now, very important thing, the company is an optional contract. What do we mean by that? The company is an optional contract. I came to Hisham and I told him, what do you think of this project? I am very convinced that it is a profitable project. And he looked at it and he said, yeah, I agree. So let's establish a company. I will pay 50% and you will pay 50%. We agreed, we paid the capital and we started working. He does a job and I do a job. After 5 months, I said, you know what? I don't want this company anymore. So I terminated the partnership. Is that permissible?
It is permissible with restrictions.
With restrictions. What are these restrictions?
If the company is to be for 2 years, and if you terminate it early, if you put penalties, if you pull out or you terminate early, if you agreed on previous to the start of the company.
So is it like the rent? If we agree on a rent for 2 years?
Almost like, because there is investment for long-term gain. Because if you invest a certain amount of money to gain that money back, at least the money back, there is a plan how long it's going to take you to start producing gain.
Well, that's according to the type of business you are dealing. In general, as I said, the company is optional contract. We mean by optional that you can terminate it anytime you want. That's the meaning of optional. That's the meaning of optional. Yes, you may say in some cases we cannot do that, and if you agree on it, المسلمون على شروطهم, according to the conditions, that's fine. But in general, in principle, the company is optional. I chose to be your partner. Now I choose not to be your partner. You cannot force me and tell me, no, you have to be my partner.
That's true, but unless it's written in the
Yes.
contract.
Now, why I said optional, there is another type of contracts which is what? Obligatory, mandatory. Like what? We have to go through every single transaction we studied so far. Is it optional or obligatory? Let's go back last week. What did we take? Sponsorship. Obligatory. Why? Okay. Sponsorship. I came to Hashim and I said, I sponsor Hisham. If he did not pay, I will pay. I am his sponsor. After a few days, I said, I don't want to sponsor him. And we don't know where is Hisham. Can you do that? So it is what? Obligatory. Gift. Yes. For the one who is getting it, yeah, you wanted to give me something and I said, thank you, I don't want it. It is what? Optional. What about the giver? You don't have to give. But once you give, can you take it back? No, you cannot.
In the case of a father giving one child.
In the case of father, in general, we're talking about in general. You cannot. So what is it? Optional or obligatory?
And the taking back, it's obligatory.
From the side of the giver, it is obligatory. From the side of the taker, it is optional.
He has the option to give it back.
Rent.
It's obligatory.
Obligatory. We agreed on 6 months. After 2 months, I said, it is obligatory. What did we call iqrar? Confession. Confession. Optional or obligatory?
That's always optional.
Both of you are wrong. We said you have to distinguish between what is between you and Allah and what is between you and people. If it's between you and Allah, it is what?
It's optional.
Optional.
Between you and people, it's obligatory.
Between you and people, it is obligatory. And so on. Now, again, it is very important. Deposit. Is it an optional or obligatory?
Deposit, what kind of deposit?
Wadi'a.
It's
Wadi'a.
optional, and the one who is making the deposit, it's obligatory on the one who receives the deposit.
Like, you can say after a while, I don't want to do it anymore, and then it's like you go to the option. Like, when someone comes to you and trusts you with something, right?
Okay.
You can say, I can't do this anymore, and you can give it back.
So that makes it what? Optional. For both sides? Yes, for both sides. It is optional. I came to you, I told you, please, save this for me for 1 year. You said, fine, I will save it. After 6 months, you said, listen, come on and take it back, please. I cannot keep it anymore. Can you say, no, you promised to keep it for 1 year? Yes, I promised, but there is something happened. The same thing, I came after 6 months and I said, listen, please give it back to me. I need it. Can you say, no, you have to keep it until 1 year? It is optional. Deposit is optional.
It is optional, brother. Don't know.
For both. It is optional for both.
But it's obligatory and the person who receives the deposit to give it back.
Listen, that's not how we look at it. Of course he has to give it back. If you agreed on a rent, don't you have to pay the rent? It is obligatory, but not from that aspect.
Okay, from the initial aspect.
Yeah. We mean by optional and obligatory, are you liable for anything or not? Okay, is this clear? What we mean by optional? Yes.
Give an example of the confession with you and Allah, like how that's optional.
You go to a judge and you tell him, cleanse me, I drank alcohol. And then you say, and he tells you, come after 2 days. And you don't go. Or after 1 day, before 1 day of the punishment, you come and say, I was wrong. I did not drink alcohol.
It wasn't alcohol. Just tasted one.
Yeah, he cannot say, no, you already confessed.
I remember a hadith where someone came and confessed adultery.
Yeah, the woman, Al-Ghamidiyya.
No, this was a young man, I think it was. And he ran. And the people ran after him.
Yeah.
Told him. And the Rasul
So,
after told him.
yeah,
I would have left.
Yeah, why didn't you live in Ma'az radiallahu anhu, who was stoned? Yeah. Yeah. This is an example. Okay. If one partner died, the heirs are the new partners,
The what?
the heirs, the family of the ones that will inherit from.
Yeah, the inheritance are the new partners. Yes.
No. No. Why? We already said it is optional, right? Once a partner dies, the company is what? Over. Unless he wants to. Because that's the meaning of optional. I was your partner. I was not the partner of your heirs. But can't we say this also in the rent? I gave you the lease for you, not for your heirs. So if you die, can't we say the same thing? Again, that's the difference between optional and obligatory. Since the company is partnership is optional, you're not bound to the heirs. Once someone dies, that's it. The company is off. Unlike the rent is obligatory. The conditions of company. What are the conditions of the company? To be established by money. What do you mean by money? Okay, just write them and then we'll discuss them. The second condition, to be of the same type from both sides. Like I cannot give $100 and you come and give 2 bags. So we have a company of $100 and 2 bags. That's not a company. It has to be from the same type from both sides. And then to mix both monies. That's the core of the company, that both monies are what? They are mixed. Because if I say I put 100 and whatever comes from this 100 is mine, and you put 100, whatever comes from that 100 is yours, then this is not a company.
To be the same type of payment?
From both sides. Same type of money. Again, I gave the example. You don't bring $100 and I bring 2 laptops. And we say this is a company established by $100 and 2 laptops. That does not work. To allow each one to act freely. What do we mean by this? What do we mean by this? To allow each one to act freely. Yes?
Any profit that you make, you're free to spend it on whatever.
No. We're not talking about the profit. We're talking about, yes.
The people in the company themselves are, they can make whatever actions they want. They're not restricted by each other.
Yes. They can act like they can take decisions whatever they want. That's the concept of a company, that we work together. Instead of one person, we are together. We take decisions and it will affect both of us. If we say there are restrictions, again, then it's not a company. The one who puts the restrictions, he is the employer. And the one who is restricted, he's not a partner anymore. He's what?
But if they both agree to work within a certain boundary,
That's the company. We agreed on boundaries for both of us, not for you, and that's the meaning. Number 5, the ratio of the profit and loss is according to their monies. Let's say I put 50%. If I put 50, you'll put... I put 60, and you put 40. Then the profit should be how? For me 60, for you 40. But what if I put 70 and you put 30 and you say the profit is 50-50? If we agree, if we both agree.
Maybe he's working or not.
In general, it should be permissible, but in the Shafi'i school of thought, they say no. It has to be according to the money. Because sometimes we agree. Maybe I know that you are skillful, you know what you're doing. So I'm willing to give you more than what you put. These are the 5 conditions of the company.
The only way you put a company like this if you're the only owner.
No, actually that's the true companies.
It's true, but
Any company nowadays, the problem when they put many restrictions, you don't have really but always in the top, in the company, the tops, if it's real company, that's how they work.
and not with condition number 4.
Yeah.
You can't take a decision for the company without consulting the other part, unless you're the only one.
Consulting, but not well, again, that's the company. What we call now companies may not be necessarily companies. It is establishments.
But this is the condition in Islam.
Yeah. Because again, what do we mean by company?
That means
Both of
100%
us.
trust.
Both of us, exactly. Nowadays, what happens? We say it is a company, but actually, even if you are the CEO, you're not the owner. You're what?
CEO.
Your CEO means you are employer, and if the board of trustees or whoever decided to fire you, you're fired. But here, you are the owner with him. So I take a decision for both of us. You take a decision for both of us. That's the company. That's the company. Nowadays, what they call company may not be necessarily companies. The first one, to be established by money. I did not explain it. To be established by money means money that is generating money. Can we establish a company by even assets? Assets is money, and it generates money. But like milk, if we don't, it will perish. If we don't, so it cannot happen. That's the meaning of number 1. I mean, they are clear. I believe they are clear. We may agree on some of them, we may not, but these are the conditions of the company. The next thing we have today is lost and found, or the lost articles. You're driving your car, and it happened that you had a flat tire, so you had to pull over. Once you pulled over, you opened the door, you found $200. What do you do? You look around, no one is watching you, you take it and you leave?
It's supposed to certain amount of days and
Keep them what?
keep the money for a certain amount of days.
Where? In the street?
No, with you.
So you take the money.
You're supposed to take the money. Ask. And are you talking about in our religion or by the? I'm talking about Islam right now.
Well, we're discussing fiqh. Once we discuss something else, we...
Yeah. Well, I remember we were told in the school you're supposed to keep it. I can't remember, was it 10 or 30 days until someone, and you don't touch it, you don't spend it. See if someone asks for it.
Mm-hmm.
And if no one asks for it and you ask around, it is yours. If someone asks for it, it's given back.
It has to be announced also.
Announced.
And it has to be for a certain amount of years, not days.
Years.
No, it's days. I remember it was days.
Okay, what do you think?
I got through 7.
Huh?
You have to announce it. I think it's for 1 year. But you have to keep it for 1 year.
Okay, you kept it for 1 year.
And once nobody claims it, then you are able to use it.
You are able to use it. Yes.
I don't remember the date of the break, but whatever. Say you found something, you announce it, and if no one claims it, it's yours. But if someone comes back to claim it, it is their property. You have to give it back.
Okay. Now, I gave an example for $200. You're driving in the plains of Texas, in the country. And on the side of the road, you found a lost sheep. Khalil, what do you do? And you found the lost sheep. What do you do?
Keep driving.
You keep driving. Why? It's worth maybe $500 more than the $200.
Keep driving, Sheikh. You get shot.
I don't know the ruling, so I wouldn't do anything.
You won't do anything. What do you think? Is it the same ruling? Is it different? Yes.
Okay,
you don't lose anything.
Is he here from California?
No, he's not from.
You found that, and
What did he say exactly?
Like what?
It's something that they say in like in middle school and high school.
Losers weepers, finders keepers. Those who lose it, they cry. Those who find it, they keep it.
So you take it. I just wanted to give you an example that they are different. We have 4 types of lost articles. What remains? What do you mean by what remains? If you keep the $200, like it was underneath a stone, is there anything will happen to it? It will be there. If you come next day, no one touched it, it will be there. If you come next year, it will be there. What expires? Like what? Yeah, food. You went and you found like gallon of milk or nice meal. What can remain with work? Which means it needs some efforts. But it can stay. Like what? The dates. Now dates is food, right? But it needs to be refrigerated and it will remain. It will remain. Other objects. Yeah. No. The sheep is number 4. It requires expenses. Why? Because the sheep, it needs what? Needs food. It needs a place. You need to take care, or someone to take care of it. So this is what it requires expenses. So these are the 4 different types. And the ruling in general is the same, but there are differences. Rule number 1, first of all, rule number 1, if you know from yourself that you are trustworthy, and if you kept the money, if you kept the money and did not take it, if you left it and did not take it, someone else will take it, then in this case, it is recommended for you to take the money. Do not leave it. Why? Because there is a possibility that someone else will come who is not trustworthy and he will take it. So this is rule number 1. If you know from yourself that you're trustworthy, and if you left the money or the lost article, it will be taken, then it is better for you to take it. Rule number 2. If you found this article of property in a place where most likely no one else will come to take it, then it is better to leave it. Example. You are driving on the highway, then you took a side road that's almost deserted. No one is there. And you found on the side of that road stack. You opened it and you saw there is money. Leave it. Why? Because no one goes here. That means the person who lost it, most likely he will come. You don't fear that someone else will come and take it. This is rule number 2. Rule number 3. You always do what is better for the owner of the article, not for you, your own self. What is better for the owner of the article. You treat him like you treat yourself. So, if you found a sheep and you left it, and most likely in that area it is in the wild, so wild animals will come and may prey or may hunt that sheep. Do you leave it or you take it?
I leave it.
You leave it for them. You take it. You don't leave it. The last general rule, whatever you take remains the article of the one who lost it, not yours. It is his.
For how long?
Forever.
So it's better not to take it, to not be responsible for it.
No.
What happens if the sheep runs away from you?
Fine, you
Then will
tried.
keep it?
Well, you tried, right? And if you yourself lost something, that means that's it. You will never find it. That's why we as Muslims, we should help each other. We are brothers to each other. We don't, once we lose something, that's it, it's lost. It's not yours to begin with. It is his. So, here's the example now. Let's go back to the $200. You came and you found $200. What do? The first thing, you try to ask on the place where you found it. Did anyone lose 200? You don't say 200, but did anyone lose money? You ask. Scholars say, first day you ask many times, not only one time. Then for 1 week, you ask twice a day, or less than the first day. Why? Because usually once you lose something, once you remember it, you will ask about it. So the one who lost the $200, he will keep asking for the first few days. Then later on, after 1 week, most likely until 1 year, there won't be, maybe he will come and may not. So you ask frequently, but unlike what you used to do for the first day or for the first week. Now again, all these are understood from the hadith of the Messenger ﷺ. There is no specific amount of time. How much time do you wait? After 1 year, what do? Whether you use it or you keep it. It is kept for 1 year or more. Because even if you spend it after 1 year, and the owner came, and you knew that he is the owner of those $200, what do? You have to pay him. You cannot say, I asked for 1 year and no one came.
What if you invest it and it yields a great profit?
We're coming to this. Okay? So, was it yours or his? It was his.
What about if the person that found the money is poor and can't pay it back? He kept honest and kept it for 1 year. And after that he spent it. But let's say we're talking about $10,000.
Okay, $10,000.
He spent it, but he can't pay it back. After 5 years, a person came and said, where's my money? And it said that you found that money, and he doesn't have the money. And he can't afford to
Well,
pay it
again, you cannot use the money. It's not yours. Once you use it with a condition that you are liable for it if the owner came, the real owner. Because what if you left it? Are you able to use it? Is it your money?
I'm not talking about me. I'm talking
After
about
1 year, again, after 1 year, it doesn't become yours, but you are given the right to use it.
After 1 year, you're given the right to use it.
Yes, this pertains to item number 1. Item number 2, it's up to you. Whether you leave it and it will expire, or you use it and you're liable for the value of it if the owner came. If the owner came and he asked about it, you're liable for the value of it. Number 3, if you leave it, it will expire. But if you take it, it will remain with some work. So again, it's up to you. You can take it and you work a little bit, or you can leave it. Number 4, it needs expenses. So if you pay anything, you will take it back. These expenses, you did not have to do it, but you did it, so you take it back. These expenses. You return the article and you take the expenses. Now comes the question. Like a sheep. You took a sheep and that sheep was pregnant. And you fed that sheep, and then after 1 year, instead of 1, you had 4 sheep. So the owner came and he said, where is my sheep? You tell him, this is your sheep, and there are 3 extra sheep came from it within 1 year. Those are mine. And he said, no, those are mine. What do you think? Yes? They are the owners? Why?
Because it was the owner's original sheep that if this man never had that original sheep of the owner, he would never have the extra sheep. He could get the expenses, but it still nothing belongs to him.
Okay, so it is the owner's sheep originally, but didn't this person work on them? If he left it, he may never had 4 sheep.
The sheep would have died without the food if he was.
Yeah, the sheep would have died and he had no. Yes. The second person.
Wasn't there a story around at the time of the Prophet ﷺ,
Sorry.
something like this?
No, it is in the Quran.
Because even in the, when, like, I think this is referring to when the man took the money of someone's wages and he invested it in land, and then when that man came back for those wages, there was so much land and animals.
Yeah, and he gave it to
And
him.
he gave it to him, he gave everything.
Yes, but that's his money. That's wages. That's not something lost and he found it and he took care of it.
The expenses of taking care of the sheep is for the ones that
Yeah, that's agreed upon. The expenses, you take back the expenses.
the sheep and all that it belongs to the owner.
Think about it. This is your homework for today. Yeah, tomorrow I'll see the answer. Go back, read the hadith. If you have book of fiqh, read what they said. Now, the last thing we will discuss is the endowment. And the endowment is really very important. And unfortunately, nowadays, especially here in the West, it's almost lost. This concept of endowment is lost. Now, you earlier mentioned about insurance. One of the best ways to help Muslims is endowment. We can establish an endowment for insurance. How it works, a wealthy person comes and says, this shop or this project, this business I have, all what comes from it, all profit is in this endowment. Who is the beneficiary? The people who have cars and they cannot pay for fixing their cars because of accident. Endowment, waqf. Waqf. If we wanted to build a masjid here in America, what do we do? Exactly. What do we do? Fundraising. In Kuwait, there was a man who inherited money from his father, and he was righteous, and they needed to build a masjid in that area. So his friends were happy, very happy. Why? Because now the masjid will be built. But he said, I want to build a masjid. They said, how come? He said, that's it, I want to build a masjid. So what did he do? He built mall instead of masjid. He made conditions, of course, on the owners of the shops in the mall that no one sells anything forbidden. 3 years, he built 4 masjids instead of 1 masjid. 4 masjids. He was very smart. Until this very day, that mall is generating money. And it is paying the expenses of those 4 masjids. This mentality, I don't know why we don't have it. I mean, we are very smart when it comes to our children, when it comes to our own selves. But when it comes to the Muslims, I don't know what's the problem. Every time we need money, let's go for fundraising, donations. Until when? The Prophet ﷺ, when Umar radiallahu anh asked him what to do with his piece of land, he gained piece of land, property in Khaybar. And he said, that's the most beloved thing I got. So what should I do with it? The Prophet ﷺ told him to do it as endowment. In shi'ta habbasta aslaha. The ownership of the land will be kept. No one can change it. Whatever comes from this land, this year we planted corn, wheat, whatever, and it is spent in charity. Next year, whatever, and it's spent. So you are getting the reward forever. The Prophet ﷺ said, when you die, your deeds will stop, except for 3 things. One of them was what? Continuous charity. What's the continuous charity? The first thing comes to mind, endowment. Now, in the early Islamic age, they were very, very civilized, more than now. In Damascus, in Syria, they had endowment, very large land. Do you know for what? Not for humans, for disabled animals. Any animal who is disabled, whose owner cannot take care of it, in that property. And there is food, there is everything. Disabled animals. There was endowment for dishes. It was called Waqf al-Zabadi. There were slaves. So if any slave taking carrying a dish with food or with something, or without anything, and that dish was broken, she is or he is a slave. They cannot afford even the dish. They go with the broken dish and they give them a new one. That's the endowment. There were endowments for all students of knowledge. Someone rich, he wanted to invest, the real investment for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says whatever comes here for the students of Imam Abu Hanifa, madhab of Imam Abu Hanifa, students for the Shafi'i. That's how scholars could provide for themselves. They were busy 24/7 with knowledge. They already had the endowments. Nowadays, we lack this concept. Again, whenever we need some money, donations, fundraising. Until when? Now imagine, that's the thing. Instead of you purchased a land, 2 acres, and you wanted to build a masjid. Now you can build 2 acres masjid, or you can build 1 acre masjid and 1 acre apartment complex. And whatever you get from the apartment complex is paid for the masjid. Would you be any time in need for donations? Why? Because that apartment complex is endowment for the masjid, or what we call nowadays trust. This is very, very important. And believe me, it doesn't have to be large amount of money. You could make endowment only from 1 apartment. You owned 1 apartment, and you said this is endowment. That means this thing is remaining, this apartment. Every month there is money coming. And this money will go to the endowment that you specified. For the poor people, for the students of knowledge, for the imprisoned people, for the divorced woman, it could be for anything. But the problem, I don't know really what's the problem. Why people only focus on fundraising, donations.
Less work. It's easier for them. Less responsibility.
No, actually it's not less. I believe it's more headache.
Yeah, they don't want the responsibility of the running business.
They won't run the business. Actually, when you have endowment, you'll get more money.
It is true, but they ask the people of the people that are running the foundations.
Yeah, the people who are running the foundation, maybe because they are only two-year member, or that's the. So, I don't know. I mean, we need.
I haven't seen anybody on the head of any foundation longer than 2-3 years, and then they change, and then you get somebody else that with different idea that doesn't want that. One wants the responsibility, and 10 people don't.
Yeah, we have a problem here, but we don't have to have 10 members foundation. One person who can take the initiative, and everybody will follow. Again, imagine if someone, a rich person, whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given lots of money, and he purchased the land, 4 acres, and he established apartment complex with 200 apartments, and he rented them for $500 every month. How much is that? 20,000 or 200,000? 200,000?
500 multiplied by 200.
Yeah, $200,000 every month. You are generating $200,000 every month. And he said whatever comes from this apartment complex is for this project. This will be forever, even after his death. It's endowment. It cannot be changed.
For some reason, these kind of things, after the person dies,
Yeah.
you give and take about 10 years, and it will be demolished.
No, you cannot. That's the thing of endowment.
What I've seen, the problem, and this is from personal, and you've probably seen that, you went around as much as I did. Our problem in the Muslim or the Arabic countries is not building, it's maintaining.
Yeah. Well, we're talking about
We
here
have a
at least.
problem with maintenance, not building.
Yeah, unfortunately, most of the endowments, like in Mecca, and even in Damascus, they are taken. But again, what can you do? If there is no good administration, yeah, why? Because you assign someone as trustee. He is the one who's running. and he looks, he sees like $200,000. Why not take half of it? And then later on, but when you establish it very well, you will guarantee that nothing will happen like this. This is, I mean, inshallah, next week's khutbah, it will be about endowment. Especially in Ramadan, we need to think about it.
I love that idea that you said about collecting money from the community and building and start construction projects for building houses.
Yeah.
For other Muslims, people.
Yeah.
That's an awesome idea.
Yes.
Well, the class I just took, like Sheikh Muhammad was saying that he knew of a masjid that before they built it, they built the apartments. It was like a senior citizen home. And they get $10,000 out of that, which goes and funds the masjid.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't need anything. So I mean, I don't remember where he said it was located, but he did say that they did that.
They did that, but where? I don't know. The only place I have in UK.
I don't know, it's somewhere overseas.
I have been around, like I traveled almost at least 20 different states. I've been to many masjids. The only place where I saw this mentality in Phoenix, Islamic Center of Phoenix, they built the masjid, like they took the cost, and let's say the cost was 1 million. They raised 1.5 million instead of 1 million. With the 500,000, they built 3 shops. That's until there. So the rent of the 3 shops is spent on the masjid. That's the only place I saw.
Yeah, but I think in Minneapolis also the Islamic
Where?
Minneapolis.
Minneapolis.
The Islamic community.
Yeah, well, how many? It's very few. Again, that's only one thing, masjids. But that's the only thing we need. We need millions of things. We need hundreds of things. Again, the insurance company, the mortgage. Everybody is complaining about mortgage. Why don't we establish something for the needy people? Why don't we establish endowment for the youth who want to get married? They cannot afford marriage. So every youth who is intending to get married, we check his case, he gets $10,000. It is done in many places, in the Middle East, in Gulf countries. It is done.
And this is one way to attract the non-Muslims also.
I heard they have this. The non-Muslims, they have it, but I don't know. Yeah, we had it. Imagine, we had it to a level that there is no more to be spent on Muslims, on human beings. It is spent now on disabled animals. Not only animals, disabled animals.
Just imagine the jobs that you create. Without anything else. The people that will work in the game.
People know about it.
Hmm?
I don't think it ever crosses the minds of anyone.
Why? I don't know why.
It's not because, okay, this is like a very...
It's one of the best charities, and it is from the time of the Messenger ﷺ. He encouraged Umar radiallahu anhu to do it. Yeah, inshallah, next khutbah I'm determined to talk about it, inshallah. That's my intention.
Well, if you want to start something, I'm in with you, but you're going to have to start something. Because talking about it won't get us anywhere.
Well, I have the project, everything, but I need the money. I don't have the money. I'm not... No, not now, later. These are the conditions for permissible endowment. Now, again, not everything you can make it endowment. The article of property remains while it's used. What do we mean by that? You cannot say, these are 10 gallons of milk endowment. Why? Because once it's used, it will perish. There is no more milk. So this cannot be endowment. The article itself has to be remaining. Number 2, the permanence of the outcome and the presence of the capital. What do we mean by that? Now, instead of 10 gallons of milk, you may say, I have milk factory. That's endowment. Where we have cows and we have machines and we are generating milk. So the milk is generated every time and the capital is there. The property, the land, the cows are there. Number 3, it has to be on a permissible thing. Can I make endowment for alcohol? casino, whoever wants to be drunk or whoever wants to gamble. No, you cannot. It has to be a permissible thing. Okay? We'll stop here, inshallah. Is there any question? Inshallah, next week, we will start with the book of marriage. Is there any question? Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.